The Roblox Zombie genre is a wide and expansive niche of countless unique and creative games. Some games are bold and complex, others are simple and straightforward, and some are whatever. Since there really isn't an official criteria, you can literally consider any game that has zombies in it as a zombie game on Roblox. However, it can be generally agreed that the majority of iconic zombie games on Roblox fall under a specific category. 1. Zombie survival games, perhaps the most well-known of their type. These games are asymmetrical in structure and revolve around human players fighting off player zombies in round-based scenarios. Usually, humans who die become zombies. 2. Wave-based survival. Most COD Zombies clones fall under this category, and it doesn't actually have to be about zombies. It's round or wave-based with progressive difficulty. Human players versus NPC zombies. 3. Sandbox games. Games where you're just kind of meant to walk around and explore. It's extremely common in older games, as games were often referred to as places that you'd visit and explore back then. And finally, zombie story games. Linear story games that feature zombies, often built into Left 4 Dead style missions. Zombie story games are an interesting category because they're easily overlooked when they're stacked up next to their peers. They aren't high in demand enough to be as popular as the zombie survival games and the COD Zombies clones, but they aren't low in quality and high in quantity like the sandbox games are. They're kind of just in between. Zombie story games, which were popular on Roblox around 2009 to 2015, were the precursors to the story games that are commonly seen now. While these games were once pretty active and popular for their time, they've all sort of been phased out of Roblox as the years went on. Nowadays, most players haven't heard of them, but their influence can still be seen in the games of today. They've left a long-lasting impression on so many countless players, including me. That's why I made this video. Alright, enough rambling. In this video, we're going to be exploring some of the most famous zombie story games in Roblox's history. So get ready to feel a fuck ton of childhood nostalgia, regardless if you've actually played the games or not. Now, since we're talking about the history of zombie games on Roblox, I think it's only customary to start at the beginning. In 2008, Left 4 Dead, the iconic game that we all know, came to be. And so did its Roblox knockoff. As we all know, Left 4 Dead was an extremely influential game, and its popularity only prompted Roblox creators to take action while the trend was hot. Before Left 4 Dead, the only major zombie game that stood place on Roblox was the classic Undead Coming by Stealth Pilot, a somewhat generic zombie game where zombies were tasked with infecting all the survivors. However, when Left 4 Dead dropped, it seemed to influence pretty much every following zombie game in some sort of way, giving name to a variety of titles such as Last One Alive, Reason for Life, Contamination, Left 4 Survival, and of course, Reason to Die. Left 4 Dead had 3 key components that helped form the Roblox zombie genre: the Infected, the Versus mode, and the Campaign. Versus mode, you can already guess where that went, but the campaign of Left 4 Dead was something that was taken to interest by many. In 2009, Coder Corti, the guy who would later go on to make Blood and Iron, released the iconic zombie adventure game titled Contamination. Contamination was, like the majority of Roblox games at the time, based off of Left 4 Dead, so far to the extent where it straight up featured the Infected ripped straight from the game, which was also extremely common for its time. There was something different to Contamination as opposed to the others at the time though. Unlike the endless supply of Left 4 Dead copies that were just PvP games, Contamination was a story game, a cooperative adventure kind of experience. The server size was relatively small, only holding 6 players, and all of them were on the same team with the same goal: fight your way out of the zombie-infested facility. And so this started a long line of games that would follow in its footsteps. Alright, so as for the game itself, Contamination is a pretty fine-ass game. Now, it is kind of dated, but if you're able to see past it, I definitely say this game is worth giving it a shot. The game is rather difficult and punishing when compared to the story games that we see nowadays, but I think it's a quick realization for many that a lot of the obstacles are super easy to get around if you know what you're doing. An example of this is coming across the witch in the hallway. If you shoot her, she'll annihilate everybody in your team, but literally all you have to do is just walk around her. Also, there's a pool of acid really early on in the game, which is usually where a lot of first-time players die, but veterans know and understand that there's plenty of time to get everybody across the pit of acid, so long as nobody screws around or pushes each other. But using knowledge from previous runs, the game gets a lot easier the more times that you play it and gain a heads up on what to watch out for. Also, a pretty unique part of the game that I took interest to is the random equipment on spawn. Each member of your team will get a random loadout. Some will get a Sterling, others will get pistols, and lastly, the unlucky one will just get medic or melee. And since there's no invincibility frames, the melee loadout is extremely dangerous, but who cares, just don't get unlucky, I guess, I guess this game really left a lasting impact because somebody loved it so much that they made a remastered version. Go check it out! Contamination became a massive inspiration in itself to many, as it brought up the idea that a zombie game didn't have to be a direct copy of Left 4 Dead PvP. It could be just a story that happened to have zombies in it, but not just your run-of-the-mill zombie. No, that's boring. We need zombies that are unique and cool, like Left 4 Dead. And so came along a little game known as Zombie Tower. Alright, it wasn't a little game at all, it was a pretty big game that lots of people grew to love in memory. Zombie Tower, as the title suggests, is about a tower full of zombies. Your team starts outside the tower, and your main objective is to battle your way through all the floors to get to the top. There are a total of 29 floors, all of which were inhabited by unique zombies that you'll have to make your way through in order to progress. When it comes to remembering the game, I like to think the majority of former players first think of those unique zombie designs, because there were quite a lot of them from what I can remember. Each zombie is different in its own way, whether it be just looks or actual abilities, and this keeps the game fresh as you journey through the 29 floors. Also, you're able to unlock better weapons using the money you obtain via killing the zombies, which obviously encourages replayability. Now, when I was younger, I was definitely far from a pro at this game, but I can at least understand that this game left a lasting impression on countless players during its lifetime. And yes, once again, there is a remaster that you can play. Undead Nation was created in 2009, but its reign of popularity ran from 2011 to 2015. The game was extremely low-liked, and it was noticeably a lot bigger than its predecessors. While Contamination, Left 4 Survival, and Zombie Tower were simply just one adventure that was meant to be played over and over, Undead Nation was a whole-ass saga by comparison. The game featured a plethora of scenarios, called chapters, that were all part of a chronological story. These chapters were periodically released, which kept the fans engaged and anxiously waiting for the next chapter. I remember when Chapter 7 came out, and literally everybody in the lobby just kept voting for it over and over on repeat. It was a moment that just stuck with me for some reason. Due to the fact that the game was being regularly updated with new chapters, it was no surprise that it was able to last considerably longer than its peers in terms of player retention. It's even crazier when you compare it by the story games of today's standard. Those just seem to come and go with the seasons. But I just want to stress that it wasn't the game's size that garnered its recognition. It was the charm that lay at its core that won people's hearts. Hear me out. Undead Nation is, first and foremost, a zombie game. But as I got older, I soon came back and I realized that the game is extremely fantasy-like when you analyze it as a whole of its parts. The first chapter of the game starts you in a stereotypical ruined city. Rescue isn't coming, everybody turned into a zombie, and you have to start the car and leave. But there's more zombies. Pretty basic setting, you know? But from the beginning of chapter 2, the game immediately moved away from this run-of-the-mill backdrop as you venture into the desert and have to battle the sand boss, a powerful enemy who's guarding an ancient temple. And then you go to this ancient box thing after killing him, and then that teleports you to a volcano, and then there's lava zombies, and there's a giant lava boss that controls the volcano or something, I don't know. Once you kill him, the volcano just dies down. And then there's these nanomites, which are these little parasite creatures that shoot you up with some drugs while they bite you, and that's only the plot of the first 4 chapters, by the way. Oh, and the zombies, yeah, they were creative yet simple at the same time. The game doesn't try to anchor itself to a post-apocalyptic setting. It just kind of goes balls to the walls and adds whatever it wants to. Yet it still feels consistent when put together. There's lava zombies, super fast zombies, shadow zombies, elemental zombies, and troll zombies. But once again, that's only a small handful of the zombie roster. Anyway, so as the years went on in real life, the chapters began to take a more mature feel to them, kind of mirroring how the game's audience began to grow and mature themselves. The last couple of chapters find you finally reuniting with some form of civilization, but then the guy who's running it turns out to be evil and also a zombie, and also he created the zombie virus in the first place, and basically he just gives this giant exposition dump about why the zombies have superpowers and why zombie bosses exist, and yeah. Alright, so after that he turns into a zombie, big surprise there, and then there's a boss fight. You defeat him, and that's basically it. There's a couple more chapters after this, but they seem to be more of an epilogue because they're basically just reused assets, and they were released a considerably long time after the big finale happened. This game was originally supposed to get a sequel, which I remember playing it vaguely when I was younger. However, it was discontinued for fairly unknown reasons. Although Xplex, the creator, later reused the levels for the extra chapters that I was kind of just talking about. Due to this, the epilogue ends fairly abruptly, but it's understandable why. The guy just wanted to pump out a few more chapters for us, and you know, I can't really help but respect the dedication to his fan base. So, how did the zombie story niche die out? Well, it's a fairly simple answer that many can't really find themselves comprehending, or rather, simply refuse to. Due to the nature of my videos involving the exploration of the past, I often get asked numerous questions, all along the same lines of, do you miss these old games? Do you miss old Roblox? Was life better back then than it is now? Do you miss being a child? Alright, well, the answer is no. I try to bring up this point in my videos, but I want to just reiterate it once again here, and that's the truth that nostalgia is dangerous. These games are a fragment of the past. You can enjoy them, but they were literally a product of their time. If you go back and play the remastered versions, you'll soon realize that these games don't have the magic that they used to. They're outdated, but that doesn't mean that it's something worth moping about. They clearly left their mark on Roblox and the players that enjoyed them so much in the first place, so they aren't exactly underrated or forgotten. These games are still amazing, and you can tell the amount of heart that was put into them, but the decline came from the world simply changing around them. People were drawn to these games in the first place because of the zombie hype at the time that stemmed from games like Call of Duty, Left 4 Dead, or The Walking Dead. But now, more than ever, it's apparent that games on Roblox are more than often made with the intent of profitability and marketability in mind. These games still hold a special place in lots of people's hearts, I won't deny that, and I'm glad to see the efforts to preserve their legacy. Zombie Tower got a remake, Undead Nation continued to be updated due to the support, and Contamination was inserted into Zombie Stories, which is basically the modern-day surrogate for these games' legacy. An Undead Nation remake was a brief thought at one point. If you ever saw this game, then you know what I'm talking about. But the game itself never made it far due to a variety of factors. I mean, just take a minute to yourself and you'll be able to think of why.
I just think Undead Nation in general is just kind of a hard game to recreate, because you need to have the story, you need to have the characters, you need to have all of these zombies, you need to make it a whole AI system, all of these weapons, and how are you going to remake all of that and put it in one game?
There was a lot of ambitious ideas that we wanted to do for Undead Nation, such as pre-scripted destruction, characters that you would meet in the game that would have voice acting and dialogue, really complex environments.
I don't think anybody cared about Undead Nation. What they cared about was just the glory kills in general.
I only had an outside perspective, like most people, where it's like, oh, cool project, I want to be a part of it. And as soon as I came on, I kind of just noticed how really disorganized and chaotic the overall development of the project was. So there was a lot of technical limitations, team limitations, and just way too much overambition and just way too much us going in over our heads with this.
I hope that by watching this video, you were able to learn a little bit about Roblox history or something, or maybe you were able to reminisce on your old nostalgia. I make videos of all sorts that are similar to this, so perhaps consider subbing and sharing the video. Also, if you have some memories you want to share, definitely consider joining my Discord for discussion. Ping me, let's talk. We can be like, yo, what's up, fellow Undead Nation enjoyer? The reason why this video is a little bit brief and not totally in-depth is because, well, there isn't really a lot to explain. These games don't really have a plot. Their history is kind of basic by consideration, but I mean, I could super analyze it, but I don't want to. That kind of just takes the joy out of it. I do love these games, but I'm not obsessed with them, Although, if you do want me to make a follow-up video about just Undead Nation, leave a comment and upvote it, because I can definitely see myself doing that, but I kind of just want you guys to play the games for yourself first. They're a pretty vivid experience, and you'll get a rush of nostalgia, maybe. Or maybe not. I don't know, just give it a shot. Anyways, take care, thanks for watching, stay in school, and always remember to enjoy life while you still have it.